Hello, everyone. Cranky Old Man YouTube channel. Sorry I haven't been around for a while. Kind of ran out of some things to say. Kind of ran out a little bit of fuel there, the fuel of the fire, and I've had a lot of back issues, due to military and police service. I've been having a lot of problems, and a lot to do with mobility and whatnot. So today I got a couple topics. One is going to be appendix carry. Two is going to be open carry. Three is going to be carrying one in the chamber. I think three I'm going to start off with as being number one. The reason being, I just recently met up with a friend of mine who's still active as a police officer. And he told me that he switches out of his uniform before leaving work, which is, in the TV shows and all, they all do that for locker room drama. But when I was there, most of us just either went home in uniform or maybe threw a jacket over our top, and we took our duty belt off with just our off-duty weapon on it. And so all you did is look like a mailman with dark pants with that little black stripe. But anyway, he told me he leaves everything in his locker. Not a fan of that. And leaving your service pistol in your locker. However, and then he says he just takes his off-duty home with him, and he does not have a round in the chamber because he has children. Now, here's the situation with that. If I told him, and this is personally his own personal choice, but if he ever has a problem where he has to draw his weapon and he is not on the power curve, as in having the surprise or the time, and he's actually wrestling around with somebody and having to pull that weapon and use both hands to charge the firearm, unless you use a couple tactical things that can be employed, but probably it would be impractical if you're actually tussling with someone. But I told him, I said, having to use two hands is going to be, could be an impairment that could cost him his life. So definitely, I believe, in my opinion, you carry one in the chamber. That way you need one hand and one hand only. You can use one hand as to keep the person at bay or at distance. Keeping them off your fire, where you can reach down and get to your firearm, and you don't have to worry about racking it. In terms of going home and worrying about children, either you take your entire firearm with your holster, take it off, put it in a lockbox, or go to a room, carry your firearm, maybe in your master bedroom, have a gun lock there, and take your gun out and lock it in some type of locking box. If you're that worried about handling your firearm, that's a little, I don't know. I think you should do a little bit more training if you're not that comfortable with your firearm. You should be very comfortable with your firearm in any stage. So I agree that the less you take your gun in and out, the less you handle it, the less chance you will have a negligent discharge. So if that's what you're worried about, take your whole weapon off along with the holster and lock it away. I also believe in awareness. And I taught my children at a very young age not to touch my firearm. I don't care if I was on fire and I told them to go get my gun, they would not touch my firearm at all, because I told them never, ever touch it. regardless what I say or what I tell them. And also, I explained to them and showed them what a firearm can do. Now, I would rather have a young boy who, if I happen to make a mistake and leave a firearm unattended, I would rather him know the safeties about it, and how to safely handle it, and what it can do. And if he decides to booger around with it, well, while being bad, at least he would know to take the magazine out first, rack the slide to unload it, check it to make sure it's definitely unloaded, and then play with it. Now, I'm not condoning any of that. And I'm not saying, oh, as long as you teach your kids, you can leave your gun out. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'd rather them know that than have them very curious about it and seeing it and deciding to play with it without knowing the safeties, the 3 to 4 or 5 fundamentals of safety when it comes to handling a firearm. So I'd much rather them know this is what you do to make it safe. Still don't touch it, but if he did, he has the knowledge, or she has the knowledge, to mess with it and not get injured, hopefully. So that's my take on the carrying one in the chamber versus children versus suspect. You never know what's going to go down or how it's going to go down. And you may find that it happens pretty quick, and either you forget to chamber around because, 8 hours of the day, 10, 12 hours of the day, you don't have to worry about chambering around because when you're at work, it's chambered. So you may forget, or you may not have the chance to do that. Yeah, and people say, yeah, you can use the side of your belt and take it out, and you can catch the rear sight, or maybe if you're running a red dot onto the back of your gun belt or your regular belt, or on the bottom of your shoe if you're kneeling down using your heel. Yeah, that's all possible. Is it practical? No. So that's what I got about that. Be confident in your firearm abilities to handle, to use, to store, get more range time, get very comfortable with it so that you do not have to carry one out of the chamber. Now, if you're carrying a 1911, maybe, because the really only way to carry a 1911 is locked and cocked, because it's a single action pistol, which means you have to cock the hammer to fire it. And again, that's kind of like having nothing in the chamber, because it's not does not have the hammer pulled to the rear unless you carry it the way it's intended to, which is the hammer pulled to the rear and the locking mechanism locked. So when you pull it, you use a thumb switch to unlock it, and then you can fire it. So if you keep it with the hammer down, that's just as bad as not having one in the chamber, because you usually would need to use 2 hands. I can't use one hand and cock back a hammer on a 1911. So anyway, 9 minutes in, I finally got that out of the way. 2, let's go carried, concealed or not. A lot of states in the last year have, especially with Bruin and a couple other fights that went to the 4th, 5th, 6th judicial courts or whatever, and the Supreme Court. A lot of states have opened the way to carrying your firearms. Some of them are just straight up, you don't need a license. You were granted this right by God and not by the state, and you don't need to do anything but buy a gun and carry it. Great. And I am happy to see that the Second Amendment in a lot of these states that's what's occurring. Obviously, unless you're a violent felon, and then you need to go to jail. I live in one of the bluest states in this country, unfortunately, and that's not going to happen anytime soon here. Now, we did have at one point where we could carry a pistol, and I think it's been rescinded now for non-law enforcement, non-retired officers, security guards, correctional officers, and whatnot. But at one point, I think we had carry. I know they made it a lot easier than 15 years ago. 15 years ago, you got to put a packet like this in with 3 references, your fingerprints and photos, and why you wanted to carry it and what's the need to carry it. And then you'd wait 9 months for them to maybe interview you and maybe grant you the permission to carry a firearm. So I'm glad that the country, most of it, is moving towards the you don't need to tell us why you think you should mentality. You know, you should be able to just carry it at will. And at the very least, some of these states cut it down to maybe a little bit of information about you, where you live, the firearm itself, and then they maybe within a few days issue you your license to carry. Now, open carry versus closed or concealed carry. Open carry is not a very good idea, especially if you're carrying in a generic Kydex holster or leather holster that offers no retention. Now, I don't think there's many people going to be running around with a level 3 holster on their hip, and which criminals do know how to defeat that. They train on that. But you open carry, you never know when a criminal sets the time that he's going to commit a crime. And if he sees you standing there in the line of the store and your hands are all full of groceries, and he can just come up and snatch that gun right out of your holster. And what are you going to do? Throw a box of milk at him? Gallon of milk? Maybe some beans or rice? You're pretty much, you're screwed. He's going to walk off with your gun. Worst case scenario, you chase after him and he gives you parts of it back in terms of bullets. So, also you lose the element of surprise. If you're standing there and a guy announces a robbery, he doesn't know you have a firearm, in which case you might be able to get the drop on him and then drop him, if you know what I mean. And if you have a firearm on your hip, the first thing he's going to do, it's kind of like a robbery at a bank. The robbers need to go in there and put a pistol to the security guard and get his firearm. They know that. So if you're standing in the line and you got a pistol on your hip, they know about taking your pistol. They're not going to just overlook it unless they're really idiots. So concealed versus open carry. In my opinion, carried and concealed is a better option. You can always present your pistol as a means of deterrent if there's an issue. Which brings up another issue. If you're opening carrying and you get in a dispute with someone, they can always say, hey, he threatened me with the pistol, which could bring up legal issues for you. They don't know you don't have if they don't know you have the pistol, then maybe they won't make some type of claim like that. So again, concealability gives you some extra options where you're not getting it taken from you. Go to YouTube. You'll see plenty of videos where people just snatch it right out of their pocket or right off their hip, and there's nothing they can do about it. So, yeah. So that's my take on the carried, concealed, carried, open carry. Lastly, I would like to say placement. Appendix carry versus 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, depending if you're left or righter. I literally just saw a video not too long ago. A person was open carrying, and they had it more at a 5 o'clock carry, way back there, right? Not even on the hip bone. I'm talking way over there by the butt bone. And person just come up and bloop, pulled it right out, and there's nothing they could have done about it. Now, appendix carry offers a few things. A little quicker draw if you're right here versus having to reach back here. Defeating clothing where you're just lifting up a shirt and get to it versus having to come around here with your hand, pull it up, then use your left hand to continue to hold it and then draw. So it's harder to defeat clothing. Wintertime isn't as bad if you're wearing a jacket that, you know, you can carry on the outermost part of your clothes and your jacket's covering it. However, you do have to worry about people with your jacket bouncing up and down, or maybe you reach for something at the grocery store and they see you, and then they call the police and you're face down on the floor or mud or wherever they stop you to check on your credentials and whatnot. So when I was thin and my chest stuck out further than my stomach, I had no problem carrying appendix at all, because your chest stuck out enough and it hung down and you couldn't print. You're not printing at all. However, with my belly getting a little bigger now than my stomach, it's a little bit more challenging. But you wear a little bit bigger shirt. You definitely don't want to wear anything tight fitting, and you can get away with it. And I think if anybody did see something there in the appendix area, they might not automatically think gun. They might think, something to do with diabetes, something to do with heart thing, especially when you get up to my age. You might think it's a defibrillator or something in there. So appendix, I switched from 3 o'clock to appendix for the most part. There's sometimes I carry at 3 o'clock for different reasons, but for the most part, appendix. Keep your booger finger way outside the pistol grip. So here's a fake gun. It's a BB gun. When you're reholstering, take your time. Keep your finger out like that. Put it down in there. Lock it in, and then take your hand away. Don't keep your hand at touch point. Don't keep your hand down here, because if you do that and you push it down, you could cause the trigger to go off. And you shoot yourself in your testicles, nostrils, whatever you want to call them, your weenus. And that could lead, there's a lot of arteries down there. Not only taking yourself out of the gene pool where you're not able to reproduce any longer, it may take away the fun stuff in life. So take your time. Even on your hip, I see people holstering and shooting down, and a lot of them are lucky that because of the way it's pointing, it misses their thigh or misses their hip. But some people who have those holsters that are cocked out a little bit, they're taking rounds to their leg and whatnot. And so keep your finger, again, up and away when holstering. You've had plenty of time to holster. You may have to pull quick, but you had plenty of time to holster. And that's after, you had to draw down on somebody. You wait for backup, whether it be another civilian, police officer preferred, but you wait until you got sufficient backup, and then you take your time and reholster and do whatever you got to do. So that's my points on that, and we're at 19 minutes, so I'm sorry it's so long, but I wanted to just give it a call. One big overall getting back in the moment video. The cheapest way to support the channel is to like and share. Of course, I have a Patreon. I'll put the link there. Nobody's utilized that yet to even buy this old man a cup of coffee. And so I've been doing okay with my crankiness. Maybe I need to change my channel name. I don't know. 3D Printworks. I am now really starting to push out my 3D printing. I do this lithophanes. Look it up. They're pretty cool. I make them for badges and whatnot. And, you have a lighting sight source in the back, and they are really cool. If you need to put some comments down there, I would do a video on what they look like, lighted and unlighted. And they make a great gift. And it could be a badge for an officer, or a picture, a family photo, your favorite dog, your favorite car, whatever. You get me a picture, I can make you a lithophane. I can do it in grayscale, or I can do it in color. It doesn't matter. Prices run between $50 and $75, depending on what I have to do to the picture. And I will ship. So that's all I got for y'all today. Glad to get back in front of the camera, and hope y'all doing well. And I'll see you on the next one.